Amid the neon lights of 1980s New York, there was one face that made America stop and look. Andrew McCarthy, the young man with gentle eyes, a shy presence, and a rare purity in the noisy world of Hollywood. He never chased scandals, never relied on tricks to shine, yet he became the emblem of timeless coming-of-age films like St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, and Weekend at Bernie's. But behind that soft, unassuming exterior lay a truth few ever realized. Andrew never felt he belonged to that glamorous world. The Brat Pack label unintentionally turned him into the symbol of a generation he never wanted to represent. And the loneliness only grew as his fame rose. Beneath it all was a silent battle with alcohol, a battle that began when he was just 12 years old. And then, at the very moment when people believed he was at his peak, Andrew quietly walked away from Hollywood. No announcement, no noise. He simply disappeared. The question is, why would a rising star choose to step away from the spotlight? And what led him to walk 500 miles across Spain in search of himself? The story of Andrew McCarthy is not just the story of an actor. It is the journey of a man who had to learn how to let go of fame to find true inner peace. Andrew McCarthy was born on November 29, 1962, in Westfield, New Jersey, into a quiet household with 4 brothers. His mother worked in journalism, his father in financial investing. 2 jobs that seemed stable on the surface, but created a home that was both strict and emotionally distant. Andrew grew up an introverted child, always retreating into the world of imagination as his refuge. When the family moved to Bernardsville, Andrew entered the most silent years of his adolescence. He had few friends, and joy was scarce. But at Pingree School, during rehearsals for Oliver, the shy boy unexpectedly stepped onto the stage and transformed into the artful Dodger. In that moment, for the first time, Andrew felt something like a calling, the sensation of truly living, of being free in a way he had never experienced in real life. After graduating high school, Andrew enrolled in New York University to study acting, carrying with him a dream of becoming an actor. But just 2 years later, he was forced to leave the school. To many, it looked like a failure. But for Andrew, it opened another path. A path that would lead him to Hollywood earlier than expected, with all its glittering lights and the shadows he never saw coming. Leaving NYU before finishing his program, Andrew McCarthy found himself standing in the middle of New York with nothing but 2 empty hands and a dream he hadn't yet learned how to name. He began his quiet routine of auditions, small rooms, harsh lights, cold faces flipping through his resume before rejecting him without a word. The young Andrew didn't have the Hollywood look, nor did he have any connections to open doors for him. The only thing he carried was the instinct of someone who truly loved to act. Then his first opportunity arrived in 1983, when he was cast in the lead role of the film Class, starring alongside Jacqueline Bisset. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it opened the right door. An introverted young man like Andrew was finally seen, noticed, and given a chance. But the light also brought its own shadows. Early success pulled him into the Brat Pack, a term coined by the press to describe the rising young actors of that era. For many, it was a badge of pride. For Andrew, it felt like a shirt he never chose to wear, a label that made people see only a small piece of who he really was. In those early years of his career, Andrew wavered between expectation and fear. He wanted recognition, yet he longed to escape the mold Hollywood kept forcing on him. And within that inner conflict, he stepped into the most explosive phase of his life. The true turning point came in the mid-1980s, when Hollywood began searching for young faces who could bring a fresh, emotional energy to coming-of-age films. And Andrew McCarthy, with his sincere eyes and subtle, heartfelt acting, quickly became a top choice. In 1985, St. Elmo's Fire premiered and immediately became an American youth icon. Andrew's portrayal of Kevin Dolan's, a smart but wounded young man, left a deep impression on audiences. 1 year later, he once again stirred the hearts of viewers in Pretty in Pink, playing Blaine McDonough, the gentle, well-mannered boy with the unforgettable charm of a first love. His string of successes turned Andrew into one of Hollywood's golden young stars. He continued leading major films like Mannequin, 1987, and Less Than Zero, 1987, showcasing his range from romantic and comedic to dark and emotionally complex. And then came Weekend at Bernie's, 1989, the box office hit that made his name recognized across the United States. Audiences loved him for his natural grace, his charm, and the way he brought authenticity into every glance and every smile. But behind those dazzling lights, invisible pressures began to take shape. Being tied so tightly to the Brat Pack label made him feel diminished and misunderstood. The rapid rise of fame placed expectations on him that he wasn't sure he wanted to carry. Even while standing at the height of his success, a quiet emptiness had begun to form within him. The emptiness of someone who felt seen, but not truly understood. That was the moment Andrew realized success doesn't only bring glory. It also carries a weight that an introverted soul like his must struggle to breathe under, even amid the applause. Amid the roaring success of his films and the glow that surrounded his Hollywood career, Andrew McCarthy lived a private life that could not have been more different. He was introverted, drawn to quiet spaces, always searching for a safe corner to escape the heavy expectations that fame imposed on him. His first great love was Carol Schneider, whom he had known since his school days. They grew through youth together, drifted apart for nearly 20 years, and then unexpectedly found each other again, marrying in 1999. From that marriage came his son, Sam McCarthy, who would later follow in his father's footsteps as an actor. But differences in lifestyle and changes within Andrew himself eventually led to their separation in 2005, closing a chapter filled with memories, but also heartbreak. Afterward, Andrew found a deeper sense of peace with Dolores Rice, an Irish writer and director. They married in 2011 and had 2 children together, Willow and Rowan. In that small home, far from the lights of film sets, Andrew finally found what he had always longed for: a family with whom he could be real, without performing, without trying to become a version of himself that someone else expected. But behind those moments of happiness was a silent battle that stretched across decades. Andrew had struggled with alcoholism since the age of 12, a truth he hid carefully while fame covered his life. In 1992, he entered a recovery program and has remained completely sober ever since. That battle, perhaps greater than his entire career, forced Andrew to confront the darkest corners of himself. To the outside world, he appeared as the gentle star of the 1980s. But when you step into his inner world, you see a man who had to scrape and struggle to learn how to love himself, how to love his family, and how to reclaim the balance that life had repeatedly taken away. Though beloved by audiences, Andrew McCarthy always felt that Hollywood was a place where he had to tread with absolute caution. Behind his calm exterior were battles the public almost never witnessed. The greatest tragedy of his life was not a scandal, but a years-long war with himself. His alcoholism, which began when he was just 12, left deep fractures in his soul, forcing Andrew to constantly balance himself between light and darkness. Even after successfully getting sober in 1992, the psychological repercussions followed him for decades. At the same time, the Brat Pack label the media pinned on Andrew became a frightening shadow. That group of rising young actors was seen as a defining phenomenon of the 1980s. But for Andrew, it felt like an invisible trap, a label that shrank all his efforts down to one single chapter of his career. He once said the label gave him something like PTSD, because he wasn't seen as a complete artist, only as a symbol of fleeting fame. Then in 2003, a small behind-the-scenes conflict became something Hollywood remembered for far too long. While working on Law & Order: Criminal Intent, a dispute with actor Vincent D'Onofrio resulted in Andrew being removed from the project. Many different stories were told, but Andrew said only one thing: he would not accept intimidation or any form of violence. That small incident led the industry to view him with caution, an unfair consequence that stalled his career once again. All of these elements blended together: a wounded past, the pressure of fame, and the constant feeling of being misunderstood, pushing Andrew to quietly withdraw from the spotlight. No scandal, no retirement announcement, just a silent departure, like someone exhausted and seeking a safe place for the soul to rest. Despite the quiet years that followed his Hollywood fame, Andrew McCarthy's legacy has never faded. He is one of the faces that defined the 1980s, an era when coming-of-age films became cultural landmarks. With gentle eyes, subtle acting, and a kind of honest vulnerability, Andrew introduced a new kind of leading man. Not loud, not formulaic, but someone whose sincerity alone could touch the audience's heart. His roles, Blaine in Pretty in Pink, Kevin in St. Elmo's Fire, Larry in Weekend at Bernie's, have become collective memories, characters that generations still mention when they speak about their youth. Because of this, VH1 honored him at the 40 on the list of the 100 greatest teen stars of all time. But Andrew's influence did not end on the screen. His decision to step away from stardom and move behind the camera opened an important new chapter. He became a creative force behind the success of Gossip Girl, Orange is the New Black, The Blacklist, White Collar, shaping the look and feel of some of the most iconic series of the millennial generation. Beyond that, Andrew has left another kind of legacy: deeper, quieter, and longer-lasting. His reflective travel memoirs, written with honesty and healing warmth, books such as The Longest Way Home and Walking with Sam, not only became bestsellers, but also inspired readers with their messages of freedom, connection, and the journey of finding oneself. In art or in life, Andrew McCarthy has always offered the same thing: a persistent gentleness, a quiet strength capable of lasting through time. Stepping away from the dazzling lights, Andrew McCarthy entered a new chapter, quieter, deeper, and closer to his true self than ever before. He no longer tried to hold on to the status of a movie star, nor did he attempt to return to Hollywood in the way many people expected. Instead, Andrew chose a different path, the path of healing. Over the past decade, he has become a respected television director, contributing to the success of major series such as Gossip Girl, Orange is the New Black, The Blacklist, and Good Girls. Behind the camera, Andrew found a sense of control and freedom he never had in his youth. He also devoted more time to writing, a way of having a conversation with himself. His memoir, Brat, an 80s story, allowed him to face his past head-on, confronting the pressures that once made him want to disappear. And Walking with Sam marked a particularly meaningful chapter, a 500-mile journey with his son along the Camino de Santiago. It was more than just a trip. It was a journey in which father and son rediscovered their bond, and Andrew, once again, rediscovered the peace within himself. Today, Andrew lives more slowly. He appears in a few film projects, writes, directs, and spends much of his time with his family. His life no longer revolves around applause or audience expectations. It revolves around real moments, small, meaningful things that a younger Andrew never believed he deserved. After everything, he has stepped out of the shadow of the Brat Pack, out of the weight of fame, out of the wounds of the past, to become a more mature, grounded, and peaceful version of himself. When looking back on the road he has traveled, Andrew McCarthy doesn't speak of fame, roles, or the films that once made him the emblem of an entire generation. What he talks about most is the quiet growth that happened in silence. The years he spent away from Hollywood helped him realize the most important truth. Sometimes, to find yourself, you must dare to step away from the place the world believes you belong. Andrew once admitted that being labeled a Brat Pack actor made him lose the sense of control over his own life for decades. Those wounds did not disappear, even when he became famous, wealthy, or loved. Only when he stepped away from the spotlight, when he lived a slower, more honest life, did he finally gain the calmness to open the door to his past and face the pains he had spent his youth avoiding. The 500-mile walk with his son also became a symbol of healing. A father who had once been lost in his own life, now learning to reconnect. Not through words, but through long, quiet steps, side by side. Through that journey, Andrew realized that it wasn't success, but presence itself. That was the greatest gift he could give his child. In the end, Andrew McCarthy looks at his life with gratitude. He doesn't try to erase the past, nor does he mourn the loss of fame. Instead, he sees every twist, from glory and mistakes to his disappearance from the screen, as pieces that shaped the man he is today. Calmer, kinder, and more truthful. As the old films of the 1980s slowly fade with time, one thing about Andrew McCarthy remains unchanged. The gentleness he brought to audiences, not through noise, but through the most honest emotions. From the soft-spoken young man in Pretty in Pink, the youth icon of St. Elmo's Fire, to the grown man walking the quiet roads of the Camino de Santiago. Andrew McCarthy's journey has always been a journey of finding himself. He is no longer a star in the way Hollywood defines one. But in another place, deeper and more meaningful, he has become a storyteller. Through films, through books, and through the lessons drawn from the wounds life left on him. And perhaps that is his most enduring legacy. Authenticity. Andrew's story reminds us that no one is born to live forever under the spotlight. Some stars burn brightly, then fade, and some choose to shine quietly in the gentlest moments of life. If you have ever loved one of Andrew McCarthy's films, or ever seen yourself in his fragility and resilience, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Which Andrew McCarthy role stays with you the most? Thank you for following this journey. See you again in the next story.